Hey everyone, and welcome back to Fallout 4 Xbox One mods. And in this video I'm going to be showing another round of visual mods. Since the first video there's been a lot more, especially got to do with the compound itself. And ignore the sanctuary buildings themselves, that's in from the first video, which I'll link in the description if you'd like to watch. But in this one it's going to focus mostly on the Commonwealth in a whole. As you can see, there are a lot more live trees around, there's a lot more foliage, all things like that. And all of these are separate mods, but I've checked them all individually. They're not too great, so I've combined maybe three I'd say, 3 or 4. So I'm going to go show them off. As you can see, it looks a lot nicer now, even with this mod itself, the sanctuary one. So lots more trees, lots more shrubbery, just lots more life everywhere. And for the sake of convenience and showing off this mod, I'm using another pocket vehicles mod, it's called, just so I can show it from above. Now the problem with doing this from above is that it takes a while for the textures to load along with it, but I've tried it walking around and it tends to load with yourself walking, so you won't have that problem. And it's mostly in open areas in the cities or little towns. There's not too much of it. You can find the odd shrubbery around the place, a little bit of foliage, maybe a tree or two, but it's mostly out in the common as a whole, as you can see. Now, as you can see, around the areas where I'm close to now, like Covenant, there is a lot more life around, a lot more trees, a lot more even just little plants like these flowers here. Just as you can see, it's a lot loaded. It's loaded a lot better, a lot more foliage, not just little gaps. Little autumn trees, some ferns, if I'm calling that plant the right thing. And just overall it looks a lot nicer, and it tends to load in a lot quicker as you're walking. So you're never really too far out of it, unless of course you look across the way or some fair distance like that where it hasn't loaded in yet, so it doesn't look too great. But as you walk ahead, also I have kind of a more lens flare-y sun mod, as you can see if you look at it through the tree branches. It tends to flicker a lot more, which I think is really nice. So as you see, kind of more God rays shining down there, if you can see it, down near the bottom right of the map or my screen. So I think that goes along well with the foliage itself, because it casts a lot nicer shadows as you look around. And some of it has grown over houses, trees around the houses. So it makes walking through just the combat itself a lot more interesting. So next I'll show off a bit of the cities. There's not too much there, but there's enough there to kind of make a slight difference. Okay, so right now we're outside Bunker Hill, and not much more shrubbery around here. It's quite barren. Just the odd tree, the odd bush, no more foliage. Sorry about that. Sometimes when you go too fast in the spaceship, your game can crash on you. So anyway, like I was saying, when you get more into the city area, there's not as much foliage, not as much trees and things like that, but at Bunker Hill there's still quite a bit. As we travel down, you can see it gets very barren, as the game normally is. And as we get closer to the city, you can see little patches around of where things are grown, just a little bit, a few bushes, some trees, some hedges. So yeah, overall not too much, but it's still nice though. You know, you don't want to have this city full of foliage and things like that, because it wouldn't really happen, especially with all the concrete on the ground. As you can see, not too much difference in places like the castle. Some foliage in the middle, 1 or 2 trees up top, and some trees on the outside. So not really any of the major places are affected all that much. Just mostly the emptiness, just to give it a little more life and a bit more interest as you're travelling through. So yeah, as you can see, still a lot of barren, but still not. As we get further down, still a few trees. Gets a little more vegetative as we get away from the cities and stuff like that again. So it is fairly well covered across the whole Commonwealth. And finally I'll show off the glowing sea, see if there's any changes there. And as we're getting close to the glowing sea, there's still some trees and things like that. Not as much though. A lot more just dead ones. So let's get deeper into it. Also, I just noticed you can see the shadows and things like that from the sun. So yeah, God rays making a big difference. I think it makes a nice little flare off of it. Nice shadows, things like that. So let's continue. Okay, so I found a little bit of foliage inside of the glowing sea. No trees anymore, just that's this little patch. That's all I've been able to find for the most part. But besides that, it's fairly dead. So I've been travelling around a while and there's nothing in the Dead Sea. The only thing is just an overwhelming lens flare. But once again, really nice shadows from the trees if you can stick it. But as you're travelling towards it, it does get quite blinding. You can't really see all that much. So yep, that's it for this round of visual mods. Not much else to show besides what you've seen so far. If there's any more gets updated in the future, I'll be sure to make a video on that too. But for now, that's the end. If you liked it, I'd appreciate a like. If you'd like to see more mods in the future, including updates to these ones, you can always subscribe. So, thanks for watching, and goodbye.